Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wowhead Weekly number 275. This week's show will be a little bit different from how Wowhead has normally been. What has been going on the past few days with the whole Activision Blizzard lawsuit has made us feel very emotional about things, and we were even contemplating to not have this show, but we decided in the end to still have it because it's a good place to inform people on what is going on and to also put it together as a nice summary and links and information for people. So yeah, hopefully everyone can be mindful of that. We will try our best to keep it as informative and highlight the most important things. Before we jump into anything though, I'll introduce myself, Annie Fuchsia, and I'm a streamer on Twitch where I play lots of games, usually, more often than not. A little bit of a positive news is that we do have, or maybe not positive, but a little bit of side news, which is not to do with IRL things, is that there has been some updates in the game as well. We have a cinematic to also dive into, specifically on Tyrande, which might be a bit of a spoiler, but we will make sure to warn you of that when that happens. And this is a good time to introduce my lovely co-host, Wowhead site director, Perculia.
Thanks for joining us for this special show. Just echoing everything Annie said. This is, a pretty emotional topic for us, but we thought it was important to do the show because it is a close topic for both of us. So we will be primarily focusing on the news surrounding the Activision Blizzard lawsuit, the allegations, the replies from Blizzard and Activision leadership, some of the employee responses, and then how we've gotten to the point we are at today with the open letter critiquing leadership and the walkout plan for tomorrow. We will also be diving first into the cinematic that popped up as part of the Covenant campaign, going on about Tyrande. So, fair warning, the first part of the show may have spoilers, and then the later part of the show may be more heavier than usual, but we'll try to keep things, as informative and educational and professional as possible. So,
Indeed. Mm-hmm.
yeah. I think that we can jump right into this cinematic. Um, because it's not live in the EU yet, and it actually bugged for players when the campaign first went live, we may want to just pop it up and play it for people, if that's cool, since I don't think a lot of people have seen it. And then we can, if you've heard our past discussions about Tyrande, you may kind of guess where this conversation is going to be going. But yeah, let's watch the cinematic first.
I think that sounds like a good idea. Here. Okay, now I should have it. All right, let's check it out.
How dare you come here, sister? After our cries for aid went unheard, unanswered.
I heard your cries, felt your pain, and in the wake of tragedy, sent forth the cascade of souls to sustain you. Oh, the great tree. All who perished there were claimed by the Maw. Then I have condemned my favored children. By our hand, we may yet guide their souls unto their spring. Starting with this one. Tyrande invoked me She must choose vengeance or renewal.
Yeah, so there it was. The long-awaited
Yeah.
Tyrande cinematic.
Yeah. So we were just discussing as it was playing that we have some issues with it, but one positive thing is that we thought it was cool that we didn't exactly see Elune, that there's still some mystery left.
Yeah, because we talked about that a few weeks ago when Elune was mentioned at first, indirectly. I think it was by the Winter Queen, and we were talking about how we hope that we don't see Elune as a physical presence because that would remove a lot of the mystery. So the way that everything was done with talking through Tyrande, I think that was a positive for sure.
Yeah, I think that the visuals and the art looked really cool as well, especially that the tattoos on Turon's face, like they looked even more pronounced than the Battle for Ardenweald cinematic. So you could really see the intense power coursing through her. So yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, looked good, sounded good. Choosing not to show Elune, all good. But then we have the meat of the cinematic itself. And for me, it was like the issues of the Sylvanas cinematic, where it ended on the cliffhanger, and it revealed, it dropped breadcrumbs to give you some answers while creating more answers. And I think it gets really sticky when this is all a continuation of what, in Blizzard's words, was, a genocide story. Trying all these experimental story techniques on a controversial topic. I do not think this is a good mesh of ideas.
Yeah, because it
And
didn't have to be complete genocide. If you wanted to have some kind of story like that, where some souls needed to be, because that's the thing as well. If you take it back to the basis and the core of this, so Elune let everything happen because she thought that she's doing not badly by allowing the souls go to Ardenweald, because in Ardenweald there was a drought of anima, so she thought that maybe this could help. Well, there's two problems with that. One is that they didn't even make it there. Like, these souls were stuck in the maw instead. So that brings up more questions. How was she not aware of that?
yeah, so for me, like as we're discussing this picture, like the math formula gif like floating in the background with the lady with the equations going over her face.
I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah. See, what I really don't like is how there's a short cinematic and then they pack so much confusion into one sentence. So it's clear that Elune knew about Teldrassil and decided not to do something at some point, so the souls would go to Ardenweald to help her sister. But instead of having a clean, non-controversial arc, they haven't fully built out the world, so we don't exactly know what happened, and that can really change our opinions of Elune. Did Elune, plant the idea in Sylvanas' head to burn Teldrassil down? Like, did Elune plan this as a sacrifice? Yeah. Was Elune like, hey, I'm linked to my sister, my powers are kind of weakened as a result, I can't stop Sylvanas, but when the souls die, I can funnel them to Ardenweald, give them a merciful death, or was Elune like so far removed from everything because she seems pretty like removed from a lot of stuff in this chapter? Did Elune just intervene at the last minute, and was she not aware of stuff? And like that really changes things if Elune just said, okay, I can't, it's beyond my power to help, but I'll save souls, versus okay, I could stop the tree from burning, but I'm gonna let it burn. Like, those are two very different takes, and I really don't like that 3 years after, the burning of Teldrassil, we have these vague story beats that seem designed to make the player base argue, and it just feels like an inappropriate topic to do that with, and it's kind of like, well, maybe it wasn't genocide. Maybe it was like a cosmic thing. Like, was, Sylvanas trying to help Elune? It's just like, I don't think this is the right, it's like the story arc. They're just doubling down on this, like, arguing if genocide is awesome story arc. And it's kind of awkward to sort out.
Because it could have been like a few families, right? It could have been a few families perhaps that were in some kind of unfortunate sacrifice for something, for the potential but greater good.
Right.
But this was like an entire genocide, like an entire tree, entire everything. So many, and we're still seeing the consequences of that with all the refugees and everything in the game as well.
And then it's confusing how Elune reached this conclusion because she thought, my sister, who apparently the Winter Queen is not on good terms with, they haven't been communication for a while. She's like, my sister is hurting in aid. I'll send these souls through, at whatever interpretation you want. She's gonna send these souls to her sister to help her, knowing that her sister is in trouble. And then she's like not gonna follow up on her plan, like, because obviously the souls never went to Ardenweald. The Winter Queen is still in distress. So then it's like, well, if Elune is still sensing the Winter Queen is in distress, shouldn't she be like, hey, I sent a lot of souls over. Why is she still like giving me this distressed aura? And it just, and then you're like, well, maybe Bwonsamdi, helps guide the trolls. But then you're like, well, cool, maybe that's a parallel, but Bwonsamdi knew about the Maw and Elune didn't. Like, it's just, you try to find one solution, and then there's like...
Yeah, that's another good
sort of
point. Like, why does Bwonsamdi know more than Elune?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could argue that, like, Bwonsamdi is, connected to the Shadowlands as a Loa of Death, while, Elune is a different type of goddess, but it's just, I feel it's very difficult to sell cosmology, and right now it seems convenient if it's, Elune was in touch enough with the Shadowlands to know that Ardenweald needed help, but not in touch with it enough to know this very important plot point.
Yeah. It feels a little bit of a stretch. Like, it feels like a plot direction that was decided afterwards, in a way. Like, it feels like that was not the original idea for Teldrassil burning, and I think that's what makes it feel a little bit disconnected, in a way, because I don't know, the magnitude of all those night elves just doesn't make sense in the context of like, oh, whoops, I just didn't realize the souls won't make it to you, 3 years later, or however long it's been.
Yeah. And like, to a certain extent, I can buy part of it and say, well, we as the players didn't realize the whole scheme, and, in Ardenweald, the Winter Queen sends us to Revendreth for assistance, and we still don't know what's up until the end when, Sire Denathrius reveals the anima streams, so if we didn't know, maybe Elune didn't know, but when it's... I feel like if Elune is always watching Tyrande, like giving her powers, taking them away, you think she would have realized that something was up, as you know, if Tyrande is, freeing night elves from the Maw, or, in the Battle of Ardenweald, if Elune was present there, you'd think Elune would have been like, oh, I'm not sensing the aura of the souls I sent here. That's strange,
Yeah.
But instead, Elune's like, oh, don't kill Sylvanas. So like that, it's like in one sense it makes more sense if Elune's like, oh, Tyrande is angry for no reason. Don't kill Sylvanas. The souls were brought here are balanced. But it's weird how sometimes Elune is like omniscient, like in everyone's head and knows what's going on. And then other times it's like, oh, it's convenient for her not to know what's not going on. Boop. You just, time for her to be surprised again.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good way of summarizing that, because also, like you said, we saw in the previous cinematic that she clearly didn't want Tyrande to kill Sylvanas, and why is that? If it is the case that now she's like, yeah, let Tyrande decide vengeance or what was it? Vengeance or
or I think it was renewal, one of those. Yeah.
And she didn't realize that last cinematic, like the timing, like,
or like all the other
Sylvanas
times
survive.
Tyrande has used the powers, like, I'm killing Nathanos, I'm freeing souls from the Maw. It's like, you didn't realize what was going on then. So
and now Tyrande is allowed to feel like she needs revenge, or what does Elune mean with that, actually? What is your interpretation of the whole thing? Like with the vengeance versus renewal.
So, I mean, at this point, I was kind of like in like WTF mode watching the end. Like, I was still kind of reeling from the whole like, did Elune just like burn Tal'Darsel, or did I mishear that? But I think, I mean, my gut take when I heard it was like, oh, these are words that are clearly trying to link Tyrande's story arc to Uther with justice or vengeance. So I took it as like a symbolic thing, like Elune is inhabiting Tyrande and then is saying, okay, I can only stay in her body for so long. You were all trying this ritual to, help her control her powers, but ultimately Tyrande's soul is the one to decide if she wants to save herself, if she's going to be, all consumed by hatred, or have a more balanced path going forward. And, so Elune's like, I can help, I can explain what's going on, but, ultimately, I can't save someone if they just want to, go down, a path of hatred. And I think that as we learned after the cinematic, Tyrande is describing this out-of-body experience where she's hearing Elune speak through her, and whatever explanation Elune said, Tyrande is like way less confused than us, and she's like, okay, like I'll try to lead my people and pick the path of revival instead. Maybe Tyrande realized that vengeance isn't simple, or tragedies can come from the best of intentions, and that's why she chooses this healthier path going forward. And then when you see her eyes, they're no longer clouded, they're the usual night elf white again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was just basically Elune being like, everyone here, you want to save her, but she has to make the choice if she wants to save herself. And Tyrande deep down is a good leader with her best interest at heart, and picks the choice to move forward.
Yeah, well, it seems like Tyrande has accepted the story in that case. It seems like she,
which is confusing.
Yeah,
like, I mean, if someone was, it's so weird because, like, if this had more story arcs or quests, I think it could be a nuanced story that makes more sense. But right now, I'm thinking to myself, well, if we have the take that Elune encouraged the burning of Tal'Darsel, that's really strange that Tyrande's just, you know, chilling with it. But if we have the take that Elune sent the souls to Ardenweald as like a reaction to the tragedy, that makes more sense. That maybe that's why Tyrande is like, you know, you meant well, you know, thanks for trying. Let's move forward. But then that raises all the other questions of, well, why didn't Elune, you know, follow up with the souls? Or
that too.
You know, can Elune just send souls directly to places? You know, wouldn't she have to bypass the Arbiter? Like, it raises all these. You know, if she was trying to bypass the Arbiter, wouldn't she have then known that the cycle of death wasn't working properly? If she was, you know, like reaching directly to manipulate things into the Shadowlands, like it just both avenues raise a lot of questions that don't really have satisfying answers, and they can kind of feel like putting together puzzle pieces, but you know, you just want to enjoy the story. You know, you want to like log on and be like, hey, you know, these were one of the original in-game races. You know, I want to see my, you know, plant forest, you know, people, you know, just doing their cool stuff, not, you know, constantly in this, you know, drawn out cosmic genocide story. And it's just, you know, kind of like, you know, feels bad how it's just very convoluted and doesn't really make you feel good. And like, I want to go back to cinematics, you know, just, you know, big, epic, you know, like Sargeras sticking a sword, you know, in Azeroth, you know, Illidan, you know, throwing Gul'dan off a cliff. You know, like, you know, I want that. I don't need everything to be like a tiny cinematic that looks beautiful, but just always ends on the cliffhanger and is designed to have one or two things that make people argue with each other. Like, I am tired of arguing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think having some more stories put out or more details put out in the game itself, maybe like mini cutscenes, or if not cutscenes, just quest lines, just things that cover things, and so we can get a better understanding of it without feeling like it's some kind of, you know, reality TV show that puts on like 2 minutes of drama just to like, wow, and then, you know, nothing for a few months, just waiting for the next one.
Yeah, and like zooming out a bit, you know, for the big picture, like I do want to acknowledge that, you know, there have been several storylines with Tyrande in Shadowlands, and I think that there have been like individual moments of nuance, and the visuals and voice acting are great, and some of the dialogue the NPCs say when you rescue them, you know, it is touching, but uh I just don't know if like this is the right story to tell in the medium of an MMO. You know, we've mentioned you know, Blue Posts. Sorry. Uh, there was Blizzard just put a statement on the
on the walkout?
allegation. The Blizzard put up a statement from the WoW team 30 seconds ago on the lawsuit.
Ooh. Oh, okay.
So, yeah,
maybe
sorry, I just...
That's okay. That's okay. It's understandable distraction. But yeah, overall, it feels like the story has been kind of in a very surprising direction, where it feels like characters are conveniently made to not realize things just to make the story work, and it feels a bit strange. I think is probably the final thoughts on it. Visually, it was amazing, and I do really like the fact that Elune is still mysterious. We still don't really have a face for her or anything. So it was quite a nice idea of having her speak through Tyrande. But yeah, that's what it is for now.
Yeah. Sort of as a transition thing, the point I was going with before this message popped up was more like it's a really sensitive topic to pull off, even with the best of mediums. And you know, we saw how like Game of Thrones was always kind of dark, but then it really went off the rails in the last season with, you know, constant shocking or you know, just like kind of crashing down like years of lore or, you know, fun speculation with things sort of designed to make you feel bad for the purpose of shocking. And like I'm not sure if genocide is the right narrative to put in an MMO, and sort of tying it to the general Blizzard stuff. There's always been lots of examples of, you know, employees like making jokes about it, or memes, you know, finding it funny, statements that don't really show that they are taking it you know, as seriously as they could.
Then
and I
it
do
should have
think,
simply just
yeah,
not been a genocide. Like,
yeah,
you could have had a few families in some kind of sacrifice that happened to be in a specific place, maybe in Darkshore or something. It didn't have to be the entire Teldrassil, if that was the case, because like you
yeah,
said, I mean, they Blizzard themselves did mention the word genocide, and there has been many like fun situations made out of it with memes and whatnot. But in that case, maybe it was not meant to be in that scale.
yeah, I feel like, you know, as part of like increased just sort of sensitivity and respect, and, you know, just trying to be professional and more grown up, you know, maybe some story person was like, oh, you know, Sylvanas would be a badass, like what if she blew up this peaceful city, ha ha ha, you know, we're 15-year-old, you know, edgelords again. And
Yeah.
but it's like, you know, did you guys think this through? Because now you're stuck with this like really horrific story that you gotta, you know, explain your way out of. So yeah, I mean, I was saying on Twitter, like, you know, I've been kind of uncomfortable with the marketing angle of this since 2018, and I think that they've gotten better at telling the story, but it's still really uncomfortable. And I think when you take this genre and you stick it with cliffhangers and like cosmic twists and like breadcrumbs for people to argue about, it's kind of a weird vibe.
Yeah, especially the cosmic twists as well, because it makes it so difficult to make sense of anything. So it's like, yeah, this
Yeah,
happened, but like this person was not really behind a decision. Well, this person was not really behind a decision either. Oh, there was some kind of like 3D
yeah,
chess going on from every angle, from every character. And
yeah,
it makes it feel very confusing in terms of a red thread that makes sense.
yeah. So with that, I think we should address the lawsuit allegations, and this isn't
Yeah.
in the notes. The statement I've been a little distracted with. I
Mm-hmm.
am,
Well, this is what happens with live news, right?
yeah. So before we go into the more of the chronology, I just dropped in the notes, Annie. We got this message from the World of Warcraft team, and I don't know if you want to pull it up, but basically,
I can put the message on the screen actually.
yeah.
So yeah, let's start with going into things by showing the most
Yeah.
recent thing that literally
From
just
8 minutes
happened.
ago.
8 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I'll put on the screen. You can start talking about it.
Yeah. So, jumping ahead a bit from where we wanted to start, this message is targeting the part of the lawsuit that mentioned Alex Afraziabi, the former senior creative director for WoW, who has like tons of references in the game, as well as some other named people. And the message is acknowledging the allegations, as well as saying that they will be taking immediate action in Azeroth to remove references that are not appropriate for our world. This work has been underway, and you will be seeing several such changes to both Shadowlands and WoW Classic in the coming days. So, to me, that means that they're going to be removing maybe NPCs that are named after people in the lawsuit. You know, they don't say this specifically, but maybe there's some like really offensive like racist or sexist things that that should not have been in the game in the first place, but really stand out now. Maybe those things will be removed. Like the lawsuit specifically mentioned the World of Warcraft team a few times. It wasn't just some random people at Activision. It specifically targeted the Warcraft team and visible employees on it. So I'm glad that they made this statement, and especially in light of things going on. And
yeah, sorry,
I guess
I
we'll
was
see.
reading through it as well, so
Yeah.
but yeah, this definitely does sound like it. It definitely sounds like that they will start removing. I know that this was one of the feedbacks that a lot of people gave, because there's been situations in the past where people have been removed from the game when bad things around that person has gone public, and people were wondering, is that going to happen to these people? Because like Alex says, one of the people mentioned in many stories, not just the one, has tons and tons of references in the game. So I think this is probably very comforting for especially all victims out there to hear, as one small action towards a safer place.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like you said, people have been removed, tweaked in the past. Voice lines changed, NPCs changed. Even like as far back as Warlords, like if there was like a hint of some drama or something personal with some people, some references were pulled even during the beta, and
Yeah,
it would be hypocritical if
very.
the state of California is calling out this employee and so many people are coming forward, um, and WoW is not doing anything. So we will definitely be reporting on this on Wowhead. The data mining tools, I believe, pick up things like this if they rename a spell or a quest gets marked as removed. Um, but yeah, I'm pretty sure this will target Alex Fraziabi. He's the NPC you see when you first go into Stormwind. He's got the Strathhome quests named after him. Like he's everywhere. Like I don't know who made his NPCs, but like
Yeah, I've seen many posts of
yeah,
people
there's so
who've.
many of it. Yeah.
There's been many people who've made like screenshots, and like there's so many items. So it's probably a nice comfort for those people to at least see that this has been done, because it's probably not a nice thing to keep being reminded in game of someone getting away with not being good to people.
Yeah, and I mean, at least the time I was, hearing about references, you don't make your own reference, someone else makes the reference for you, so it also feels bad knowing that the people on the team at the time were like, oh, we view you so highly, you're awesome, we're gonna make all these items praising you. Other people signed off on this, so the items and the NPCs reflect, the team raising this person up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
I think that's yeah, I think that really touches one of the things that's made this like so sensitive, because a lot of like, we're gonna go through the official statements on things, and we're not gonna dive into any of the personal stories, but I what's been feeling the worst about this whole thing is the fact that old Blizzard, the core Blizzard, has always been a team that everyone's always looked up to. Like, whenever anything went wrong, everyone has been, bashing Activision. And the core Blizzard was always seen as, the kings and the royalty, the gods, and everything.
yeah.
And I just can't imagine how it must have felt for these people working there and being treated this way. And on the outside, when going to social media, seeing that these people are being, idolized, and Yeah, I don't know. The
Yeah.
whole thing is just so messed up, I think.
It really changes your perceptions of old Blizzard. I mean, like for people in the industry and also, in fan cultures adjacent to it, there's always a sense of like, I know, stuff isn't great, but uh, if I blast this, do I lose my job because public sentiment is against you? But it feels really rough when casual people are all like, oh, old Blizzard was perfect, back in the day, they just released amazing games, go back to the good old days. And in reality, it's like they just kind of rode a good time and then they all left. And now the current group is trying to kind of clean up the mess here. And it must feel really bad if, you encountered harassment, discrimination as an employee, and you knew that the person in power had this massive public rock star following, and you would be made out as like the difficult person, or like the one exaggerating things. You would get you could get blacklisted if you spoke out. And yeah, it just really puts old Blizzard in a very different light, and some of the people players are idolizing, yeah, they may not be at Blizzard now, but these allegations took place when they were in charge, and they have to own a lot of that accountability for being okay with that culture and just kind of coasting on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, why don't we
And
go back to the? Go ahead. Sorry.
also, just as a sort of overall statement or overall thoughts on this, obviously this is just a change in the game itself. This is not supposed to be like, oh, everything is now redeemed, everything is now over. But it's still a nice as a small little gesture towards anyone who has gone through these things, or people who've sympathized for those people as well, to feel like at least the game itself is being cleaned up, and then of course comes the more important things and more difficult things, which is to clean up the things at the offices themselves.
Yeah. So the news that broke at 10 a.m. This morning, which I want to cover next, is that we learned some employees contacted us directly that Activision Blizzard is staging a walkout protest tomorrow on Wednesday, and the hashtag is ActiBlizzWalkout. The purpose of the walkout is to protest the official handling of the lawsuit, as well as to call for an improvement in working conditions for employees, especially marginalized groups that have, really been preyed upon by Blizzard's power structure. This takes place Wednesday on the 28th. It's kind of sadly ironic, like this is the first time many employees are meeting each other in over a year because of COVID.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it will take place from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It will take place outside. There's even a hashtag for other studios to participate in, because this isn't just a Blizzard specific issue, this is systemic. Riot had a similar lawsuit several years ago. Many other studios have similar, problems like this. And yeah, it's really gutsy and bold for these employees to do it, knowing how messed up and vindictive the industry can be. Like, people are doing this at the risk of possibly losing their jobs. Or maybe they won't get a promotion over someone that didn't walk out. America doesn't, there's no union for this type of industry. So it's, harder to leverage worker rights. So it's really brave what they are doing, because there aren't very many security systems if they have, industry resume repercussions from this. But yeah, really proud of all the people for organizing this.
For anyone who wants to help bring light to this, we have the hashtag that's been decided as hashtag ActiBliz walkout, and a lot of people are using it together with a blue heart emoji. So if you want to help support that, then that is the way that you can do it, because as Perk says, you can imagine that some of these people are probably terrified. There's a reason why a lot of stories are usually hidden and never come to the surface, and that's because of fear. And right now, I think a lot of these people have been empowered because a lot of things have come out to the public eye, and we can continue to empower that by supporting visibly, such as showing with this hashtag.
Yeah. I also want to highlight that when they announced their statement of intent, they push for different goals, and this is tied to what we reported on so much in 2020, which was the reports coming to light of pay that was not on par with the rest of the industry, or women, other marginalized groups being targeted, making even less. Blizzard at one point, I believe, said that they were only implementing diversity hiring practices for like a lower tier of employee, but not for the whole company, because they didn't think it would do anything. Like really cringy, bad corporate public language. So the statement of intent is making sure that they're saying, we want data on relative compensation. We want, better promotion rates, salary ranges for employees of all genders and ethnicities. Your current practices have led groups not being paid or promoted fairly. Better HR, like it's all related. Like it's, these issues are not separate. If Blizzard is not valuing employees with pay, and if HR is not coming through one way, it makes sense why they are not, respecting employees when they come to them with reports or care about, culture being bad a different way. So, yeah, but yeah, I'm just really proud of everyone going through with this, that, worked on the statement of intent, that are organizing it, and the people that will be standing together. This is also open to former employees, and there are definitely people that are traveling from, other regions of Southern California, even some people out of state, to stand in solidarity with the current coworkers. So, yeah, that was the most recent thing up until, the WoW statement as of 10 minutes ago. And yeah, why don't we then go back to just sort of how things unfolded last week, starting with the lawsuit, and then the Activision reply that was really bad and made it clear that this was going to be a rocky fight for acceptance and respect of the issues. So yeah, so in case you took a break from WoW after the Race to World First last week, on the 21st, Bloomberg Law reported that Activision Blizzard was being sued by the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing, and this was the result of a 2-year investigation. And I just wanted to emphasize that because, like, 2 years is a big deal, and when you're being investigated by the state, like that is really serious. Like it's pretty airtight if the state has to get involved. And, it's not just it's not just like one accusation. Like this report was super researched, 2 years of research. There was a lot in there. And it just described what I don't know if this is like a term in Europe, but they were using the term frat boy culture, which if you're in America, it evokes a certain type of behavior. I prefer if they just, call the behavior what it was and were like, discrimination, harassment, instead of using terms that maybe don't culturally translate outside of the US. But yeah, just a lot of really vile behavior that showed that management at Blizzard was sort of encouraging this, and ridiculous things like, the World of Warcraft team noted that male employees and supervisors would hit on them, derogatory comments. Male employees would play video games during the workday while, women had to do work. And then around item 47, it got really dark with, a bunch of statements calling out Alex Afrasiabi. And then the another statement linking at Activision, not Blizzard, someone's suicide to harassment they received. So it's a really dark read, and like there are dozens of examples quoted. Like a black woman had to write down why she needed what she would do with her time off. If she wanted a vacation day, like the men didn't have to do that. Just lots of really, really awful things. And it's, even more horrifying when you learn, when other people say, this isn't limited to Blizzard, it's in every studio. Like, a few years ago, the industry was not very professional. This was everywhere.
Yeah. I think that's also a very good point to make, that this sadly is something that has happened in many companies, in many industries, but the gaming industry as well. And I guess the thing that feels shocking for a lot of us is that we just thought so highly of the old Blizzard, and I think that's what's been the most touching for a lot of people, the fact that it happened even in the older days, because a lot of the people who were guilty of this aren't even working at the company anymore, and that's the part I think that has affected a lot of people emotionally about this. And the working conditions, like you said, the differences between what people had to do to prove a point, or not to prove a point, but to, for example, give reason for why they're taking a day off, and those are also things that can easily be proven too. Because a lot of these kind of things, people tend to be, or some people tend to be skeptical and not believe. But we're talking about people who, probably have very solid evidence on all of these type of things. It's not so much about emotions. If you've been, you've been given the task. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
like the state got
the
involved.
State's not going to be like, oh yeah, we got to pad out this document. Let's, put in some unproven anecdote. I mean, like this took a lot of research, and seeing the outpouring of messages on Twitter from current and past employees validating this, like it's just, I mean, even if you want to say, okay, like, maybe there's always like, one bad actor in 100, like there's so much like evidence and statements coming out, in droves with this. And it also puts some past people leaving in light. Like, if someone seemed like, really talented and enthusiastic about a product, and then maybe they stopped talking about it and they left, it's like, that sucks. Maybe we lost this talent because they weren't allowed to thrive and they were always belittled. Or I think it's, interesting timing how a lot of, old school Blizzard left in, was it 2018, like Mike Morhaime, and then this investigation starts right after.
2
it's like,
years
oh,
ago. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like, interesting timing here.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, everyone's like, oh, the old guard doesn't like new Blizzard. They're forming their, new studios and doing other stuff. And meanwhile, it's, well, maybe they realize that,
they can't
it was sort of like a runaway train at that point, and they needed to start over. So, yeah, like I said, I mean, I think if you attended a lot of BlizzCons, even if you didn't work at Blizzard, if you observed the dynamics, you weren't in full on idolization mode. But reading the extent, like I knew some of the things I've observed similar experiences, but I didn't know about the suicide. I didn't know about some other things. And just I think that the game in the early days was a very cozy place for a lot of people. It came out when the economy was not great in the US, so it was like a very cheap, good way to talk to people before social media. So it was like the only place you could really interact. And even if we're savvier now, we're just like, like it just feels bad that something was tarnished. Like maybe it flourished because it was in an age before social media, so a lot of stuff naturally didn't get visibility. But even for people like me that have experienced some the problematic elements firsthand, it feels bad looking back and being like, oh, I was really happy playing in this period, but now it's now it wasn't as happy as this rose goggles. I have to take those off.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that the
investigation
working
by the
conditions are bad at
state.
that point. Yeah.
That is no joke.
Yeah. So yeah, so then this, lawsuit came out. People read it, and Activision Blizzard went into damage control mode with contradictory statements made by some people, and the worst was a statement by Activision Blizzard executive Fran Townsend, who used to work as a Homeland Security advisor in a past, administration, government, and it, man, it's so bad. Like, they're just, oh my god, they're just saying, they're just totally trashing, the lawsuit. They're saying, this was a meritless and irresponsible lawsuit, and just like, how can you just say that? Like, this person was with the company for 4 months. Like, of course she's gonna think it's great. I mean, she worked for the White House, and now she's an executive at Activision. Like, she's not gonna encounter anything bad.
I found it very strange that they decided to make a statement from her. And because she also talks about my time here, and it's like, well, your time here is just a few months, and most of these accusations or allegations are from years ago. So what do you know? And it felt like I don't know. It just felt so insincere and terrible damage control.
A recently filed lawsuit presented a distorted and untrue picture of our company, including factually incorrect, old, and out of context stories, some from more than a decade ago. So it's like, so you're admitting that they're old, and that, like, if you're basically saying this is distorted because the stories were old from a decade ago, you're saying that they existed.
Yeah.
Like, that's still not good. Like, what are you saying? Like, oh, it's too old, we erase it from everyone's memories. Like, it just doesn't, you don't get to say, oh, yeah, these stories are horrible, but they took place a while back, so let's just forget, it happened.
Mm-hmm. This was
just really bad. Yeah.
Yeah, this was the statement. I'll put on the screen in case anyone is interested in reading it.
Yeah. There was also another one that an anonymous Activision Blizzard spokesperson made that, we published at the bottom of the initial lawsuit thing that actually sounded even worse. Like, they just, like, the first statement just started, like, ranting about the state of California. Like, it was, like,
that was the first statement, right?
Yeah, they're saying, the behavior of the DFEH is disgraceful and unprofessional. It is unfortunately an example of how they have conducted themselves throughout the course of their investigation. It is this type of irresponsible behavior from unaccountable state bureaucrats that are driving many of the state's best businesses out of California. That's like,
that's
man,
such a weird
you've gotten
take.
Like, yeah, it's like, thanks for that off-topic take.
Like, how is that relevant?
Are you
to
upset?
Like...
Yeah, it's like, do you have some like an axe to grind with like some side business venture in California here? Like, how is this relevant?
Yeah, that was really weird.
Yeah.
And it also showed how, like, the entire statement, if you read it, that's the one that's on the screen right now. It was a comment made to IGN, right?
Yeah.
And it's what the whole statement is wreaking is discrediting the lawsuit and being angry that California is making it difficult to keep a business running. And that's
Yeah.
just so weird. Like, did you read the allegations? Hello? The person who wrote this? Like, that's
Yeah.
so. I don't know. It blows my mind.
Yeah, and I mean, that is what I believe, because those statements were so tone deaf and dismissive of the allegations. That is what really made employees stand up and, risk their livelihoods to be like, no, this is valid. Like, I experienced this. Like, I was treated poorly by the person in the lawsuit. Like, I left Blizzard as a result of, this bad behavior. And that's why I think so many people came forward to be like, yeah, Activision, like, this is real.
Yep.
And I just think it's so. I just think it's so, like, uncomfortable how they just took this woman who was with the company for 4 months and they're like, oh, look, a woman's in the spotlight,
Hey,
this should
if
make
the
it all
woman-
better.
If a woman
Yeah.
says that she's treated well, then that means every woman feels the same.
Right. And it's like, well, no kidding. Like, like, executive, like, person working on Homeland Security, like, no wonder, like, she's a lot more, privileged and is way higher up in the corporate structure than the QA team.
Yeah.
No wonder she has a wonderful experience.
Yeah. I bet she doesn't have to write a whole paper on why she takes a day off.
Exactly. So, around the time the Activision statements were published, Blizzard president J. Allen Brack wrote an internal email that was circulated to Blizzard. We're trying to use Activision Blizzard and Blizzard deliberately as separate entities. Activision Blizzard, being the corporate umbrella that includes, like, the Call of Duty studios and, Blizzard and Candy Crush and King. But when we say Blizzard, we are talking about people working at the Blizzard campus, Warcraft, Diablo, and all of that. So, as a side note, it's really making it clear how, like, the different branches of the company don't seem to communicate with each other.
Yeah.
So we got this email from J. Allen Brack
I'll show that on the
around
screen too.
around the same time as the Activision Blizzard ones. And, it's notable for a few reasons. One notable thing is that he sounds a lot more sympathetic and understanding of the allegations, saying that, the behavior detailed is completely unacceptable, that there is still much to do. So at least he's, acknowledging that there are problems, in contrast to Activision Blizzard. But then, it's not totally an airtight statement because, he's talking about, I disdain bro culture and I've spent my career fighting it, but, there are examples of him, I think bro culture, again, like frat boy, I think that's not a great term to use because not everyone knows what that means, but he definitely acted in ways that were kind of like, like a boys club, like kind of, like being obnoxious, thinking it's cool, like, on the sexist side, like, off-color jokes, stuff like that. There was a BlizzCon panel we'll show in a few minutes where, Pete looks like he's playing into the bro culture, and, some jokes that weren't cool. But, more specifically, he was senior management for a while before his current position, so, he worked with Alex Afrasiabi. He was in a senior role. He was someone that should have been aware of these things and worked to have, change them.
And people reported that he did, right?
Yeah, like in the Alex Afrasiabi section, it was discussed that it was brought up to him, and he basically gave Afrasiabi like a slap on the wrist, like it was a verbal warning.
Yeah.
And was kind of allowed to continue. Now, to be fair, Afrasiabi left with little fanfare in 2020, which, one could connect the dots and be like, that was in the middle of the investigation. Maybe they realized this guy was taking time bomb and tried to remove him to save face. So you don't know if the removal was a result of J. Allen Brack 2, but the lawsuit calls him out for not really taking action against him when employees complained at the time for continually, like hitting on women, being really inappropriate at BlizzCon, other parties. So, I guess it's a much better statement in tone than Activision Blizzard. But it's like, where's the accountability, man? Like, you could have done more. Like, you've been with the company a while. You are called out in the lawsuit for not doing enough. You should be aware of that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, yeah, that was one statement.
Yep.
And then, the J. Allen Brack statement also got people thinking, hey, J. Allen Brack took over kind of around the time the lawsuit started. These allegations go back many years. So maybe past Blizzard leadership should be speaking up as well, because, many of these allegations did not take place. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then that really got the conversation going about, hey, maybe we shouldn't just revere old Blizzard completely. Like, maybe we should hold them more accountable to stuff. The fact that some left around the time, like, maybe we should investigate that more. And then that tied into former Blizzard president Mike Morhaime sharing his thoughts on the lawsuit, because he was president, co-founder, senior creative director Alex Afrasiabi worked at Blizzard from 2004 to 2020. That was, squarely under Morheime's leadership.
Yep.
And people were like, how did he not know what's going on? Like, was he shielded from it? I mean, maybe that makes it better that he's not, quote, a bad person, but, then he didn't have the right systems in place to be educated and properly oversee the various departments if he was unaware of this.
Because that's the thing too. No matter from what angle you look at it, he did a bad job. Either he was, not causing the issue, but either he was enabling it by, doing slaps on the wrists or whatever, and not much else. Or he was simply not aware. And I honestly don't know which one's worse, because if you're working there and you have all these people under you, you should be aware. And especially when it's about more than one person. Like, there's many cases, then you should be aware. And it's embarrassing.
Yeah, and I mean, when Dreamhaven was announced, we looked at the website and we could see there were specific throwbacks sort of to the Blizzard statement, making it seem that they do stuff different. And now we're like, well, I want to see how Dreamhaven will handle, employee compensation better, or, anti-discrimination. Will their HR be better? Like, I'm more interested in those sorts of things, as opposed to, oh yeah, that statement, they really, subtweeted one of the Blizzard values, good job on that own. It's, it's like, is this going to be the same, where it starts off as a group of friends and then it goes in directions that are unchecked? I want to learn more about those sorts of things. He did allude to it somewhat in his statement when he said, I can and will use my influence to help drive positive change and to combat misogyny, discrimination, and harassment wherever I can. I want the mark I leave on this industry to be something that we can be proud of. So, I think that he does sound remorseful, but like he was with the company a really long time, and some of that responsibility does have to be laid at his door, even if he was in more the naive or kept in the dark camp. But we'll.
Oh. Apparently Perk disappeared. I think I'm still streaming. Yes. Okay. So I think it must be her internet cutting out. I'll put Mike Morheim's statement on the screen. Hi Annie. Hi. I'll put Mike Morheim's statement on the screen so you guys can read that while I try to connect again on Discord. Let's see. I'm not sure if she's completely gone or are you...
Get to this.
Oh, hi Perk. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I just typed something.
Oh,
Can you
yeah,
see
it just popped up. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you seem good now, I think.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, the internet was just like, I'm fed up hearing these statements. I'm depressed.
Yeah, no, that's
yeah.
okay. I put Mike Morheim's statement on the screen as I was looking at Discord to see what's going on. But yeah, welcome back.
I just think that there were definitely some public examples of just things that were not appropriate happening, that were caught on video, unprofessional culture, that if you were a president like reviewing footage of an event and you're like, like it would be like, do I want, is this the atmosphere I want? We'll show a clip in a few minutes. It's like, do we it's like, I don't want this to represent my company. Like, I don't want a woman to come up and ask if the characters can wear something else besides bikinis and have the crowd boo her while a group of employees makes fun and says, Victoria's Secret is cool. Like, you should be watching and be like, yeah, this seems wrong. If this is how they feel comfortable presenting in public, what are they like behind the scenes? So yeah, I look forward to seeing if Mike Morheim, takes steps to improve this, because the letter was a good first step, but I want to start seeing action and how his new company or initiatives will actually do better, because he just has a lot of former Blizzard people at his company, which is based in Irvine, like Blizzard. So it's like, how will this
was Alex there too?
No, Alex left in 2020 and has kind of fallen off the face of the earth.
Okay, so we don't know where he's gone next.
Like his LinkedIn, social media, all that's been scrubbed, kind of. And he left without fanfare. Like, when Jeff Kaplan left, it's like, oh, I'm leaving, and Mike Morheim, but he just left quietly. So I was like, yeah, I've heard rumors about him. Yeah, I'm like, did HR tell him to go? But yeah. So it's like, here it is from old school Blizzard directly saying that they could have been better. That they let people down, and acknowledging that in retrospect, yeah, there was stuff that was not
badly handled.
Yeah. So, it is a tough statement to read though, because like he sounds so welcoming and the tone is really good in the statement, but then when you think that he oversaw the company when much of this took place, like it's just really sad and anger. It's like, you were the guy at the top that could have, enacted change.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, the person in charge complaining that, nothing was changed. It's like, you were the guy that could have improved this, and you didn't know about it, or it was not as high priority as other things. And we are all worse off for how that turned out.
Yeah. I mean, like, J. Allen Brack is at the top now, but
yeah,
Mike Morheim was, and in a lot of ways we can say that Mike Morheim was a lot more responsible. At least Alex was gotten rid of during the time that J. Allen Brack is up there.
Yeah, I mean, Morheim was president for much longer than J. Allen Brack has currently served. And Yeah, I mean, you know, you can't just be passive and be like, oh, I wish things were better. It's like, yeah, and you could have made them better.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So then, I mean, it's really surreal covering this because, you know, I have my own emotional ties trying to get, you know, mental health breaks from it. And like these statements keep coming out every few hours. So like you can't just, you know, get a breather from it. It's like another one that says good things, but is frustrating in its own way. So the next statement we got over the weekend was Chris Metzen,
Mm-hmm.
who, you know, another, you know, he's great with words, message of sympathy and remorse. You know, he says, we failed, I'm sorry. But then what people, you know, he's also, to his credit, he's talked a lot about, you know, his own mental health issues and anxiety before, and, you know, realizing that, you know, gaming and fan culture, you know, can be toxic. And I think it's really, you know, it's really good that he opened up about that. But he was coming under critique because, again, a top leadership role. And Alex Afrasiabi was kind of the guy who took over Metzen's, you know, old role with the creative vision. And, you know, at BlizzCons, they presented like a very chummy relationship, you know, like going beyond a working relationship, that they gave the impression that they were really good friends, you know, making jokes at BlizzCon Q&As. I don't know if you want to play the clip in the video embedded in the article, but I think again, I mean, it makes it seem like they're like, you know, best friends. Like Metzen is like, oh, Alex, like your shirt is so sexy. It's like, you know, like they seem very close.
Yeah, let me get the video clip up. You mean the one with the woman with the question, right?
Oh no, it was the one in the Chris Metzen statement with the thrall. If you can't show it, that's fine. Yeah. But yeah, it should be timestamped like
a minute.
40 seconds in. Yeah. So I'll just keep talking more. So, because they seemed like, you know, really like chummy and, you know, smiley and hanging out together, in a way that you wouldn't be like, oh, you know, like, you know, I don't know, like Mike Morhaime and, you know, Ian. They seemed to, you know, just lots of jokes at BlizzCons. And also that they were kind of in the same field, Afrasiabi following Metzen. People like, you know, did you sense any of this? Like, you know, did you hold him accountable for this? You know, like, this guy was, you know, like this horrible pest. And Metzen made some tweets that I don't think were very well worded. He says, as for Alex, I loved working with him and jamming in story meetings. He was someone I thought very highly of on the job, but we never interacted outside of story jams and such. I was never his boss. We never really interacted outside of the work or taking smoke breaks, and we haven't worked closely since Wrath. I never heard a peep about him other than that he could be tough on his team or an asshole from time to time. So learning all this the past week has been just utterly shocking, just reprehensible shit. Which is, you know, it's like, really? Like, you know...
How do you not know anything?
Yeah, and like, it's also a, you know, questionable choice to start off being like, oh, you know, the guy everyone hates, like, by the way, I loved working with him. It's just, you know, it
I have
definitely...
The clip ready now.
Yeah, like, so, like, if you listen to that statement and then you see this clip, you're like, there's a disconnect here of, oh yeah, I don't talk to him at all.
Is 48 seconds the correct timestamp?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We could have like a minute or so. Yeah.
How dare you come here, sister?
Good Lord.
Oh, sorry. I think the cinematic was playing in the background. I apologize for that random noise. Sorry, chat. Yeah. I'll replay this part now. Okay.
My question is on behalf of the Horde. Good Lord, everyone, can we have a round of applause for Alex's sexy V-neck? Look at that. It's one of the things I miss most about work is that sexy man right there. The second question is, when is the Horde getting its true war chief back? That was it.
Thrall? You're talking about Thrall? Thrall.
Wait, who?
Thrall? I think he means
Yeah,
Thrall.
Thrall.
Alex, you want to do that one?
I can field it probably. I miss you. We all do. That's a great question. A person I've never met before. I had no idea you'd be here. You know, I'm gonna guess. I will surmise. There may very well.
I think that gives like a good
Yeah.
idea of it.
Yeah, it's like you're not just like, oh hey, you're like, oh, like I love you, like you look so nice, and it's like,
Yeah.
like this didn't age super well. Yeah.
I think it definitely
like-
does look like they're very
yeah.
comfortable with each other. I mean, to be fair, I know neither of them personally,
Yeah.
right? So maybe that's
Yeah.
just how they do speak with anyone. So I see question about, so what was that about? Basically, it's a clip that shows not that anything bad was done, not at all. It was just to show that they seem to be quite open and, you know, potentially good friends with each other, joking back and forth. Of course, it could be a bit of a stage play thing, absolutely. We don't know anything, but it's, I think what they were saying between each other made it pretty clear that they're friends. And then reading the statement of like, no, we never ever did anything outside of work, sounds a bit off.
Yeah, it's like, you know, Metzen wasn't like, oh, you know, Ian, you're so cool, and, you know, hi, you know, other people. It was just, it led to increased scrutiny where people were like, you know, what are you going to say about this guy, Chris Metzen, because, you know, you seem to have overlap in your departments. And the initial statement that Chris Metzen made did not mention Afraziabi, which made people suspicious, and that's why he had to follow it up with more statements.
And this is absolutely
Yeah.
no way of being like, yeah, there you go. This is, you know, this is proof of anything. This is just to bring light to what seems to be a very good friendship. That's all.
Yeah, I mean,
Or
it's,
at least
and
a
if it was
very
not
friendly
like
friendship,
it's
not
just
just
giving
professional.
context. Yeah, like it gave context why people were really curious what Metzen would say about Afraziabi, because this is the image we're all going by. Like, you know, they're acting like best buds. And if they weren't, then, you know, it was, you know, that's how they chose to give off the persona, and that's why people were kind of asking Metzen to, you know, amend his statement and you know, specifically talk about this one individual, you know, as opposed to others.
But it's not proof of
But,
any
yeah.
sort, in case anyone gets
Yeah.
upset of us making a statement of sorts. It's not that. It's just that it does give a sense of them having a somewhat of a casual friendship outside of the work as well. And
Yeah.
that's all.
Yeah. So, with that, you know, players and employees that were not, you know, at the top of the, you know, food chain, were very, kind of upset, hurt, angry, trying to take matters, into their own hands, because, you know, like you feel really depressed reading these stories, you know, and powerless. Maybe you didn't encounter something at Blizzard, but it reminded you of a bad experience in your past, you know, with your own company. So people have been reacting in different ways. We gave the example of the walkout that was planned, you know, earlier. And I wanted to highlight some things that players were actually doing. And, you know, with the 6-month sub you have going on, some people are choosing not to play when it runs out, but they still have game time. So they've been organizing protests in Oribos, talking about the issue, which, could raise awareness for people that weren't aware. And they were raising money for different organizations, which, seems to be really good. Looking at this, the Oribos sit-in, organized by Fence Macabre, raised over $13,000 for Black Girls Code, which, it's pretty impressive, for a grassroots, very spontaneous effort. So, I think that's one thing, and if people are like, lol, why protest a game by playing it? Some people have subscriptions and they haven't expired yet. Other people, maybe you have friends in the game, or it's, entertainment you like, and, you're just like, you're logging on to spend time with friends and you're not sure what you're going to do yet, or you like the direction the story is going in now and you want to support, the female employees at Blizzard, so you're on the fence, like you're still playing. So, don't judge anyone for deciding to play or not. And I think it's just better to keep the story on the employees instead of, directing your anger to players reacting and showing their grief in different ways.
Yep. I agree with that completely.
Right, Paul, here. Another thing that we wanted to highlight is Ghostcrawler, another former employee, released a series of musings going on mainly on a recently resurfaced Sylvanas discussion from BlizzCon 2010. This clip does not directly make Ghostcrawler look bad, but he's kind of complicit because he's just like laughing in the background. It did get a lot of attention because it was Alex Afrasiabi being dismissive and kind of sexist to a fan, and J. Allen Brack, who's like, oh, I'm against bro culture, kind of egging Afrasiabi on. And I think we can play a little bit of this because, if I was Mike Morhaime and I saw the fans' reaction as well as the, guys on stage being like, oh, like, Sylvanas must be from a Victoria's Secret catalog, I'd probably be like, I think something is not good at our professional industry event. So we can play a little bit of this just to show why it was recirculating again.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the volume is really low. Let's hope that helps. I can't hear it. Give me a second. I'm assuming you guys can't hear it either. Okay, I have a different source for it.
Alright.
Okay, let's change this. I'll play it by the original source instead. Actually, I'm not sure I can do that with a timestamp.
Okay. That's fine. I mean, I think we can just summarizing it. We can just read the transcript of it, which was a fan was.
I think I can actually.
Okay.
Okay, let's see if I can figure this out, and then if I can't, then
okay.
Then no, but I think maybe. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna just mute that for a second, and then I need to find a timestamp. It's a bit iffy this way, but let's make it work. 4:28. All right, so 4:28. There you go. Learning how to pick specific moments on OBS live. Okay, here we go. Let's play it.
I love what you guys done with Resurfaced. I love the fact that you have a lot of very strong female characters. However, I was wondering if we could have some that don't look like they've stepped out of a Victoria's Secret's catalog.
apparently it's still difficult to hear it.
I mean, I think we can just summarize it if they can't hear it.
Yeah, let's summarize it.
But yeah,
maybe this clip is just low volume in general.
Yeah. But yeah, so, during the Q&A, the fans, come up and ask various questions. And one fan said, "I love what you have done with World of Warcraft. I love that you have a lot of very strong female characters. However, I was wondering if we could have some that don't look like they've stepped out of a Victoria's Secret catalog." And this was around the time, maybe you weren't playing WoW back then, but basically, Ysera, Alex Straza, and Sylvanas got model updates to basically have the same bikini, like same body, like same metal bikini. It was just recolors. It was kind of lazy to have three characters just with recolored armor. And the panel first laughed at her, which then prompted the crowd to boo. Which sounds really terrifying. Like, if the entire BlizzCon auditorium booed me, I would be, like, anxiety attack. And I think, if Mike Morhaim's watching this, I think that should be the first sign that if someone is asking about that and your crowd boos, that's not a great environment, you've created with your community.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had this really weird jokey exchange where Afraziabi says, "What do you mean?" And Tom Chilton then says, "What catalog would you like them to step out of?" Which is, also not the greatest reply.
Mm-hmm.
And then J. Allen Brack is just like giving signs of support, saying, "Yeah." And then Afraziabi says, "Could you see Sylvanas looking any other way?" "Right, so we feel you, and we want to vary our female characters. So yeah, we'll pick different catalogs." And then J. Allen Brack says, "Hey Alex, what calendar is that Tauren female coming out of?" And then Afraziabi says, "Not one you'd read." And then J. Allen Brack says, "Yeah, sexy cow business." And that's just not a great exchange for the creative directors to give to a fan at your industry panel. It's not professional. If people get very upset when they think the tone of a blue post on class balance is has a dismissive tone, and this is outwardly just not professional. Like, this isn't how you should talk to fans. And Ghostcrawler was sitting on the panel. He didn't say anything, but he still wanted to reflect on it because he was on the panel and he could have spoken up or commented on something after the fact, but he chose not to. So he just was reflecting how he's like, my coworkers had a shitty answer. It did not age well. He wishes he had said something back then. And he's reflecting on the future, and he wants to do better in the future if he was directly asked questions like that. Because now he's at Riot and he's working on an MMO, so he's looking back to his past to learn from the mistakes and move forward. And he says, "I find the video embarrassing. I apologize to the player who asked the question and all others who were disappointed with Blizzard's answer." And yes, it's an old video, but it's a reminder that we can be better. And I've seen some people being like, "Oh, why are you trying to get Ghostcrawler in trouble?" And it's like, we're not. Like, he reacted to this video that was getting, thousands of retweets on Twitter, or people would be like, "How dare you, dredge up this old thing? Like, can't you move on?" And it's like, well, this happened in the middle of the culture. Like, this is kind of if this is how people were acting on their best behavior, you can see how the culture was not great. And again,
this happened around the time that a lot of people were having the experiences at the company. So
yeah. So I think it is very important. It's not like, it's not like, "Oh yeah, they were such a nice guy," or here are all these clips how they're talking about how they're against sexism and their thoughtful replies. Like, maybe something isn't is contradictory with statements. Like, it's like, yeah, this is the culture they're describing. of just not sounding respectful, and thinking that a whole panel of executives, laughing at a fan while the crowd boos her, like that's not a vibe. Like everyone was okay with that vibe. And I think it was right before social media got big, so at the time I wasn't super aware of it. I don't even think I could afford BlizzCon that year. Like I certainly wasn't going for work then. So, maybe these things flew under the radar more. It just, or if it was like, haha, gamers have, they're passionate, they're heated, or can't you take a joke? If you're critical of the game, you don't like it, and it's just like, no, like you can be a fan, you can travel to BlizzCon, but you can, constructive criticism is not a bad thing within itself. Like you can still be a fan, but want the game to improve. It's not like a personal attack on another player if you say you have a question about a part of the game. So, and I think the attitude of, oh, this is old, how dare you discuss it? It's like, well, that's kind of the attitude Activision Blizzard is, vibing on, of like, oh yeah, this is old, why did they bring it up? And it's like, because you have to be held accountable, and you have to realize something is wrong and disappointing, so you know how to, enact change. If we just bury our heads in the sand and don't look at the past, we can't move forward. So then Blizzard employees sort of started tweeting support because they felt that the corporate statements too vague, or they were Activision. Oh,
yeah,
I see it.
Okay, as we wait for the internet to get back on, I just want to say that I think a lot of chat missed the point of the discussion there. What most people are putting the emphasis on is how the whole topic was kind of just like mocked and waved off. Not that all women in WoW history, have been in a certain way or anything. It's not so much about the criticism of how all women are portrayed. It's more about how the woman who asked the question, must have felt by being responded to in that way. That's all.
Yeah. There's a diversity of armor in game currently. I think it's improved. But yeah, I just, I don't think it was a professional reply for a bunch of top level executives to make, and they just made her feel bad, and it wasn't thoughtful, which shows they're probably not thinking that critically or respectfully if these topics are brought up, behind closed doors in private. So I'm not sure going back after the lag, but we wanted to highlight next. I don't think we're going to read many of these individually, because some of them detail personal experiences that are quite troubling to read. We don't want to talk about some like very specific harassment situation, and then someone in chat experienced a similar one, and then they have an anxiety attack. We don't want to do something like that. But I think it is important to note that many Activision Blizzard employees took to Twitter to denounce the company's official response, because that's a big deal. If, Activision Blizzard executives are like, this lawsuit is irresponsible and false, it's a big deal to stand up, to your boss's boss and be like, no, like, I take the allegations seriously, and I'm going to share something deeply painful from my past to show that, yes, this culture was, toxic, had issues back in the day when I worked there. So we have published a bunch of these statements on Wowhead. All the statements we have gotten, we've double checked with the employees to make sure they're comfortable posting it, because while someone may, post something on Twitter, when it's on a website, they may, it's, suddenly has a bigger reach, but yeah. So we've tried to check with everyone before putting this up. The one thing I have seen some confusion about this one statement that I wanted to clarify. One employee talked about many people taking off Friday in solidarity, and another employee talked about how it was difficult to, focus on Friday, and said something to the effect that almost no work was being done on World of Warcraft, and how like the players suffer, the developers suffer, everyone suffers. And people really latched on to that to extrapolate it to 9-2 delayed. And I just take things with a grain of salt. People are talking about how it's difficult to work on the office, one day since the allegations came out, and now with the walkout. But it's it's not like because people were unfocused for one day that something is now delayed for weeks. If anything, reading all these statements shows that there was like a lot of backstabbing and drama and like inefficient processes that maybe protected people that were undeserving, or talented people not getting the support they needed, people that were talented leaving for places that paid more. If anything, this shows that the way the company was set up was not that efficient, and maybe that could explain some of the things like past delays or communication snafus. Like, if anything, maybe this will shine a light on it, and hopefully when we talk about improving company culture overall, this also hopefully will trickle down into how the games are developed, because a lot of employees were sharing things about feeling discriminated against with meetings or their ideas, or feeling like they were thrown under a bus, or clicks, just, or communication being sort of deliberately left out, things as a power play. So when you read all these things, and then the original statement being like, oh yeah, that the men were drunk when the women did the work, they're like, how did these games even get developed if this office culture was so toxic? Like, and you can't be doing good work if you're feeling, threatened or demoralized on a daily basis.
Any kind of work, especially that requires creativity, is greatly hindered with stress, and it sounds like that's what a lot of people had to go through on a daily basis. And then no wonder things don't go as well, whether it's story writing or game designing or anything.
Yeah, and I mean, again, going back to Alex Fraziabi, senior creative director, like, maybe some of these story decisions in the past that people have been confused about, it's like, well, these people that are under fire worked on World of Warcraft. Individuals were called out, and even the team at one point. So it's like that couldn't have been a fun, creative environment if my fantasy of the game is Victoria's Secret Sylvanas. It's like, well, that's hard to like, I think he was even in the credits going up to BFA, but then also some work on Shadowlands. So if we're talking about things not making sense, or shock, or things not being treated with respect, it's like, how much of this was the team that was toxic, that's coming under fire. So yeah, but again, employees coming forward to talk about this is a big deal, especially because you're going up against the corporate evil giant of Activision Blizzard.
Yeah.
And we've even had some former employees tweet support and share stories, which I think is important too, because there aren't a ton of emails at Blizzard, but we've had like really detailed threads from one person, Christina Womack, who was the former senior user experience designer at Battle.net. And it sounds really, I mean, like they wouldn't give a woman who was best candidate for a job because it would have meant working with a man who didn't want to work with strong women. She got in trouble for trying to make a woman at Blizzard mailing list. A friend was shot down trying to make an inspirational It Gets Better video for the LGBT community, and then was forbidden to even work on that video in his spare time with the Blizzard brand, because that's not something the company wanted to be involved in. Like, there's just, it's just like, it's like this disease that just spreads all over the company. Even things like, when they were crunching with QA, we've learned that QA was not paid very well. When Blizzard talks about people being given free meals during crunch, QA only gets fed the leftovers after the devs are done.
Yeah.
And, like, everyone memes, like, oh, like, QA sucks, like, why are there so many bugs? And it's like, they're not feeding the people. Like, it's just, there's so much coming to light.
We've all had frustrations with GMs and stuff, and now you start realizing why, right? Like, they're not happy because they're not treated well at their work, so then they're not happy treating us well as players when we complain. So it makes sense.
Yeah, and there's just so many. I think it's really good when former employees speak out, because these people are in a place of more financial security. They've gotten out of Blizzard. They found another job, so they're not in like immediate danger of being fired without a new prospect. Although I imagine you could still get a reputation for being like the difficult one. But I think if someone is doing well at another company for many years, it's good that they can use their position of more stability to speak out, especially if some people at Blizzard are still afraid to. So that brings us to this week. We're now up to Monday.
We're lagging again.
Right, Paula?
I think. Yeah, it's been going off and on a little bit. At some points you've been lagging and been a bit out of sync. For the most part you've been understandable though. But yeah, now it's becoming a little bit difficult to understand again. Say something?
Testing? 1, 2, 3?
I think that's okay.
Yeah, I'm going between orange and green. I'm not sure why.
Okay. You seem good now.
But yeah, I blame Brightpaw.
You seem good now. But yes, the latest developments now on what is happening.
Yeah, we're up to Monday now. There was an Activision Zoom meeting where so I just want to say, this is like uncorroborated, like there's no recording of this that we can totally confirm, but the information lines up enough to the point where we felt comfortable reporting on it with everything else. And Activision Blizzard, which, a separate office from Blizzard Entertainment specifically, held a Zoom call to go over everything. It's unclear if Blizzard staff was invited or this was just Activision. It was called an all hands, but apparently there was some like scheduling snafu, and there's 10,000 employees, but only 500 can attend a Zoom call. And there were some not great quotes in this summary of the meeting. The worst part was when asked how hard it was to write a company apology, Activision executive Joshua Taub simply responded, "We did," before adding, "I can't control how everybody in the company responds." And it's just like,
yeah,
that
someone sounds tired of his job.
Yeah, and it's like, you can't always control how they respond, but maybe you should have really made sure that Fran Townsend's, most important message of the year was handled properly. Like, this is maybe not the one you let slide. Like, this is the one you make sure to control.
Like if this is how you
higher
handle
sensitivity
everything,
readers.
Like if this is how you handle everything, just like we did it, it's done. Then this was not a good time to do that.
Yeah. And then there was another statement that was, when asked about unionization by one of their employees, his answer was again pushing for internal handling of these situations. The best way for protection is reaching out to your supervisors, hotline, and avenues. And, you know, based on all these statements coming out, people are like, well, they failed us. You know, clearly, if we believe Mike Morheim that he didn't know, these if you know, if HR is protecting the financial interests of the company and is throwing employees under the bus, or, you know, branding them as difficult and moving them out of the company, or you know, being like, oh, he's too senior, we can't get him in trouble, he is more valuable, or ignoring complaints about equal pay, why would the employees want to go to HR? Like, they've been burned by HR in the past. Like, HR is almost the enemy in this case. So this was, you know, not a great meeting.
Nope.
Also, oh yeah, he started the meeting by saying that he and Bobby Kotick, Activision CEO, have never seen this, but that does not mean this behavior does not happen. And it's just funny, like, all these, like, top-level people are like, oh, I've never seen this, you know, I've never seen, you know, I've never gotten leftovers after the devs. It's like, yeah, no kidding, like, you're the top of the, you know, management structure. Of course people will treat you very differently.
That's what happens when you
Like,
never
I just
check on the
don't
people who are,
yeah.
but like a lot lower down.
Yeah. So then apparently this meeting was so the statement, you know, Activision Blizzard doubling down on the take led Blizzard to publish an open letter criticizing the statement on the lawsuit, which at this point has garnered over 2,500 signatures, which is a really big deal when 10,000 people work at the company.
Oh yeah.
Like, that's a pretty significant percentage of people. And yeah, there are former employees that have signed it as well, but it's a large number. Yeah. And, you know, they didn't mince words. You know, they were saying, you know, this was, you know, insulting, abhorrent. You know, they're saying, to put it clearly and equivocally, our values as employees are not accurately reflected in the words and actions of our leadership. We believe these statements have damaged our ongoing quest for equality inside and outside of our industries. Categorizing the claims that have been made as distorted and false creates a company atmosphere that disbelieves victims. It also casts doubt on our organization's ability to hold accusers accountable for their actions and foster a safe environment for victims to come forward in the future. These statements make it clear that our leadership is not putting our values first. So, you know, doesn't mince words, really straightforward language. And they also call on Frances Townsend to step down as executive sponsor of the Activision Blizzard Employees Women's Network, because, you know, really shitty statement she made. And, you know, again, reiterating their standing with their friends, teammates, and colleagues, and they will not be silenced and they will not stand aside. So, really strong letter, and several thousand people have signed this since roughly 24 hours ago. So.
And that makes us caught up to everything that has officially been stated. At least the latest part of this, or not the latest, we did have a piece of news happen mid-show about the references being removed from the game, but the latest, the sort of movement that's happening is the walkout, which is happening tomorrow. If you want to be more involved with it, you can search for the hashtag ActiveBlizz walkout to support it, maybe bring it more light, or just be supportive of the people who are going to be there, because it must be scary as employers at the company to do something like that, because you're kind of risking your job by going against your employer. So I think it's really important for us to support that.
Yeah, I also want to draw attention to the bottom part of the statement that said, you know, we thank our community for standing with us. You can signal boost it. We would also encourage anyone who wants to stand in solidarity with us to donate to one of the following charities. And they list several, including Black Girls Code, Futures Without Violence, Girls Who Code, RAIN, Women in Animation, and Women in Games International. So, if you are a community fan, like this is a good way to, show your support, and by donating money to these organizations, that can then help change the system, for people trying to get into the industry, because as many people have stated, this isn't limited to Blizzard.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
also
mean,
a
like
good point.
harassing employees, like telling employees to quit their jobs, telling, people not to play the game, attacking people at the company. None of that
Not the right
is
move.
useful.
No. I think anyone who decides that they don't want to support the game in any way by playing it, for example, that is 100% respectable and your choice. You should not do something that makes you feel uncomfortable. But it's also important to not put that opinion onto other people who might be, making a living of playing the game, whether it's creating content or guide writing or like anything, right? And
Yeah.
also, it's I had one more point about this, but I forgot what it was. But yeah, overall,
mean,
just don't be don't be rude to people. Like that's it. Oh, also,
Yeah.
some people may not be making a living out of it, but maybe that's the only safe space they have where they have friends. Not many people
I mean, the pandemic
socialize.
still is going on.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like logging in means that they can talk to their guildies or their friends in game, and don't take that away from people because you feel uncomfortable. But if you want to take the stance and quit and unsubscribe, like that is also a good stance for yourself to make. Just don't put it on others.
Yeah. I also think that if you're someone that's saying, "Oh, I'm gonna show Blizzard, I'll, dramatically unsub and I'll play this other AAA studio game," you should look critically at things, because a lot of games have, like we covered Riot, Ubisoft was another
I mean, that's a good
example
point
of
too. Like
something
this
public.
happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think it's also, if you say, I'm going to constantly hate up Blizzard and, put every other studio up on a pedestal, you're kind of playing into into that dynamic that made old Blizzard seem, untouchable and amazing when it was hiding a lot. And, like, there's evidence out there that, this is happening to some extent, or happened in the past at many other studios. So, don't just sort of buy into this trolling narrative where you cast a blind eye to other studios to own or troll Blizzard.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's important to be critical of companies, but be respectful to the actual employees working on things.
Yep. Exactly. It's honestly, it's a difficult time for everyone, and having people tell others how to deal with it is wrong, and hopefully people can understand and see why.
Yeah, and it's also like it takes the conversation away from holding the company accountable. If you want to argue that an employee can't tweet that they're proud of some content that went live, or they should resign, or you don't like someone happy they relax by getting translogged, like you're shifting the narrative, you're policing other players but not the root of the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
and I think that kind of covers
yeah.
everything that we wanted to make sure to talk about. hopefully the show has given everyone some kind of insight into what's going on. We mentioned the lawsuit to start with. We went through the different official statements from Activision, from Blizzard, from ex-Blizzard, and also touching on peoples and employees and ex-employees sharing their stories, and yeah, with the latest highlight being the walkout, which is tomorrow.
Yeah, and just to clarify, in case any employees are with the walkout, we do have more coverage planned. We actually have a few more articles queued up, but we don't want to use people's tweets, opinions without their permission. So if you'd like us to signal boost your tweet, and if you are at Blizzard, you can reach out to us. I think I have a tweet about who to contact. But yeah, I just wanted to clarify that we want to cover the news fairly and directly. So we want to support the employees fighting for better rights how we can, but we don't want to make it feel like we're exploiting someone or highlighting someone without them knowing, and then they get an anxiety attack. So sometimes the coverage takes a little longer because we're trying to ask people behind the scenes, but we are trying to handle things with as much sensitivity as possible, and also having several people read our articles before they go live, so the wording is like we don't have any tone deaf statements in how we summarize things.
It's important for people to feel protected in that way. Randomly giving someone's story a lot of attention might bring a lot of trolls or negative people their way, and maybe it's not what they wanted. So I think it's good
like
that
if
you
someone,
guys at Wowhead are doing that.
Like if someone locks their Twitter account and then like we've transcribed their story on our website, that's public. So or if we even if someone is comfortable having their tweet have more people read it, maybe they're not comfortable with the angle that someone could click through and start arguing with them. So
that is true too.
Yeah. So, that we're just trying to be mindful and support however we can. If you are someone that has like a virtual protest in game, or something that you would like to share that you're personally involved in, you can always contact feedback@wowhead.com. That can even be sent anonymously. So yeah, we're trying to be as respectful as possible. Like while the lawsuit, was broken by Bloomberg and the open letter was sent to some other places like Polygon first, the walkout details were shared with Wowhead directly. So we're trying to be, as trustworthy as we can, and keep earning the respect of the employees that trusted us to, sit on that information for a bit and then reveal it at, this morning.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think that about covers it. It looks like some other hot fixes and things are going out, and we have a few more topics related to the lawsuit to cover after the show. But yeah, just wanted to thank people for tuning in, and there's a lot of like difficult topics that we covered, and for keeping being respectful and hearing us discuss this topic.
Yeah, thank you to everyone for being listening. Thank you for listening. And
I mean, it feels weird to end on a high note with how like it's just I guess like just thank you for listening, and if like it's okay to be like, hey, I learned something new in the show, or like I didn't see something a certain way, maybe I'll think differently about something. Like it's okay to learn, we're not here to like lecture you. It's just we wanted to just sort of lay out the timeline of things and explain some things if maybe you were missing context on them. And if you did learn something from the show, just pay it forward. Consider donating. See if you can challenge yourself to, be a good person in the workplace. Be a good person to the people around you.
Very good point.
Yeah.
As ending words, that is actually perfect. Highlighting the charities. If you want to be involved, that's one way to do it. These charities such as Rain, Girls Who Code, and do you have the list in front of you?
Yeah, one
Those are some
second.
great
It was
charities.
Black Girls Code, Futures Without Violence, Girls Who Code, Rain, Women in Animation, and Women in Games International were the charities that
Yeah.
the Walkout recommended. And you can signal boost on Twitter using the hashtag ActiBlizzWalkout and by putting the blue heart emoji on your profile.
And you can also, as you check out the hashtag, you can support the people who are making use of the hashtag too, by listening and being kind to them, especially the people who are going to be there physically. And I actually did a stream myself, a charity stream for Rain last year, as like things happened then too, and it's a reminder that this is not the first time this happens in the industry a lot, and what we can do is learn from them and hopefully not forget about it next week or next month or whatever.
Yeah, because then it just makes an environment where people are like, oh, like they got off easy, or people have a short memory, and then it makes people hesitant to come forward in the future. So we need to have a better, welcoming environment for everyone.
Yeah. And yeah, just be mindful of each other, whether at work or with friends or anyone. And yeah, that's it from us today, guys. And hopefully next week around this time we'll have some more positives to look at in terms of the what's the word, the progress of this. We've seen the first little tiny step of references being removed today. I know that may not feel like a big deal for a lot of people, but for any victims who play the game, who have to constantly be reminded of somebody who has done this to them, this is huge for those people. But yes, in the larger scale of things, of course, there's a lot more that has to happen, with special emphasis on the work conditions, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I feel
We'll
like
see how
it's
it
not
all
the
pans
spirit of the
out.
show to do a high five. So let's save it for when
I agree.
things are back to normal.
Yeah. I agree.
No bright paw on the show, no high five really.
Yeah, no
And
bright paw. He knows.
yeah, he knows. So
yeah. We'll see you
take
again
care.
next week, hopefully. Take care, everyone.
Yep. See ya.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.